Okay, it says we're now streaming. So are we ready to go?
You are live. You may proceed.
Okay, we're going to call the public safety meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
He's excused.
Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Muhammad,
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Chairman Vaccaro.
Present.
For present, you have quorum.
Okay, so we're going to go for approving the minutes of the Tuesday, December 1st meeting. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from Tuesday, December 1st.
And I'll second it. Okay, we got a second. Madam Clerk, please just call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Not the roll, the vote on the minutes.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Muhammad,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Chairman Vaccaro.
Aye.
4 aye votes.
Okay, so we're going to move forward with this. And if Alderman Muhammad, unless we get some objections to previous roll, if I lose you, I'll try to call you.
Please do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so Alderwoman Navarro, let's go ahead and you want to start with Board Bill 162, and I know you have a committee sub.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I could just recap briefly. So when you all convened a few weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving, you heard 162 and Board Bill 163 companion bills about electric vehicle charging. And we, in the interim, we've introduced a third bill, Board Bill 181, because all of this electric vehicle charging legislation is amending 3 different codes. And so I do have committee subs for 162 and 163, and then there's the newly introduced bill 181. If you'd like, I can just do a brief recap of what these pieces of legislation to do, and then run through the changes in the committee sub and go through each of those. Does that sound good?
Sure. And does any of the committee members, Alderwoman Howard, do you have any problem with that?
No, let her proceed. Let's go through it. Let's do it.
Okay, and Alderwoman Pam Boyd. Any problems with that?
No, sir, I have no problems with that. I'm sorry, I'm multitasking again.
That's okay. I know everybody's in the middle, but Alderwoman Navarro, just go ahead, please.
Okay, sure. And I know we had a pretty lengthy hearing last time, so I won't take up too much of your time. There are a couple of people here who weren't able to, who didn't speak last time. So I would like to make sure to get to them too and let them have a chance to speak as well. So one, I'm just going to share real quick. This is a flyer just recapping what the electric vehicle charging legislation seeks to do big picture. So we're updating the building code. And you can see here, this bill focuses on EV ready, which involves installing an electric panel, conduit, and a circuit, so that if someone at a later date wanted to install EV charging equipment to be able to charge an electric vehicle, they could do that. And then also there's EV installed, which is the equipment is actually there. All you have to do is plug it in. So we're talking about that, as well as talking about new construction, as well as phase 3 rehabs, which is renovations, which is essentially a gut rehab down to the studs. And that's because it's much more affordable, cost effective to put this infrastructure in at the time of construction or when you're doing a gut rehab versus going in and retrofitting. And the projections are that 10 to 30% of the cars on the road in the next 10 years in St. Louis are going to be electric vehicles. And so being able to make sure that this infrastructure is in place is really going to help us ramp up the number of people who choose to drive electric cars, have places to charge them. The number one barrier to purchasing these cars is finding a place to charge them. So as the prices come down and more people turn to these vehicles, we want to make sure that they have the electrical infrastructure essentially to be able to do that. So what this ordinance does. So it's going to apply, like I said, to new and major renovations of single family, multifamily, and commercial buildings. I do have a timeline that I'll walk through here as well. So Board Bill 162 is what is over the multifamily, so 5 family and up, and commercial. Board Bill 163, when we get there, is the residential code. And then 181 is the renovations of commercial and multifamily. So all 3 of those work in conjunction. And as we talked a lot about last time, this is really getting at our issues with air pollution and also reducing energy uses, especially the burning of fossil fuels. So lots of great benefits with electric vehicles. I won't go into all of those right now, but I do want to switch over and show you this timeline. Let's see, I think I have to stop my sharing, don't I, and share this other one. So you can see this timeline. Can you all see this? Whoops. This is pulling up. Okay, can you see this EV charging timeline?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So technically what these bills do is starting in January 2022. So we're going into 2021, but a whole year after that, January 2022, single family new construction will be required to have 1 EV ready space. So that's essentially, making sure that there's the equivalent of a dryer outlet so that somebody could plug in. There are exemptions to that. So if you've got a garage or a carport, a detached garage or some sort of off-street parking that's more than 50 feet away, you wouldn't be required. But new construction starting January 2022. And then there's a table here for commercial and multifamily. So new construction and phase 3 renovation. So depending on the size of your lot, you would be required to provide up to, either one, up to 5% EV ready. But for, 10 to 30 spaces, we're looking at 1 EV ready space. And you wouldn't have to have any installed spaces until you get into these bigger parking lots. And then in January 2024, so it's a few years out, single family phase 3 renovation. So that's the gut rehab down to the studs. That's the ideal time to be able to run this conduit and do that work. And then January 2025, we would ramp up the multifamily requirement. And that's where most people charge, is when they're at home. And so that would apply to new construction and phase 3 renovations in 2025. You can see what the chart is there showing what those requirements would be. So I'm happy, I will, let's see, figure out how to stop sharing my screen here. So Board Bill 162, the committee sub, which everybody, everyone should.
We have
Oh
to.
yeah, I got to
we
put that
have to-
before. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I do have a committee sub for 162 if the committee is willing to review that.
We'll make a motion, put committee sub for 162 in front of us. But I'll make the motion that we put it in front of us.
So move.
Second.
Okay, in previous role. So let's put the committee sub in front of us from 162. There was no objection to previous role, so we're.
Okay, great. So 162, these are for the most part formatting changes. And as I said, if you've got the markup version in front of you, you can scroll through. The bolded pieces are the ones that have been edited from the original bill. And you'll see most of it, like I said, is some formatting because we are amending 3 different codes. So this one is amending the International Building Code. And the changes from the bill you looked at last time, page 3, we added the word labeled. So the EV charging stations are installed and labeled in accordance with the relevant codes. And then the only substantive change, as you scroll down, you'll see we struck some things out. We pulled out the phase 3 renovations, and those have been moved into Board Bill 181. So nothing's changing there in terms of the requirements. We just pulled the renovations piece out and put that in Board Bill 181. And then the rest of this, as you scroll through like page 5, you'll see we just cleaned this up a little bit if there were redundancies. And then on page 6, where it had said through January 1, 2025, we changed it to December 31st, 2024, just because there are new requirements that kicked in the next day. So we just had to clean that up. And those are the only changes that this committee sub proposes to the underlying bill. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Alderwoman Howard, any questions?
No, Chairman.
Alderwoman Boyd, any questions?
No questions.
And I have none, so I'd entertain a motion that we pass Board Bill 162 committee substitute out with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Well, you want to make the motion and
Oh, I make a motion that we,
So moved. So moved.
previous roll? Hearing no objection to previous roll?
I'm sorry, Chairman. I'm sorry. Who seconded that?
I believe Alderwoman Howard seconded it. Alderwoman Boyd made the motion. Is passed out with a due pass. 162 committee substitute is passed out with a due pass recommendation. Alderwoman Navarro, let's go to 163. In case I lose anybody, and we'll get your speakers in. I don't know that you'd want to delay any of these.
Sure.
two in the meeting.
Right. Did you just pass the committee, approve the subcommittee sub? Is that one vote or two votes to get to pass?
No, it's passed.
Okay.
We
Great.
passed, we did the one to put it in front of us, the sub. And now we passed out with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 162 committee substitute passed out with the due pass recommendation. So
Okay.
now we're on with Board Bill 163.
Great. Okay. So 163, same thing in that we, it's mostly,
do-
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, could we put
You want to do the committee
163?
sub?
Yes, thank you. I do have a
Okay,
committee sub.
so we'll need a motion to put 163 committee sub in front of us. I'll make the motion. Then we put 163 committee sub in front of us. Need a
So
second?
moved.
Okay. Previous roll, no objection to previous roll. Committee 163 committee sub is in front of us now. Alderwoman Navarro, if you want to explain what it is, that would be wonderful.
Great, thank you. So 163, you'll see you've got the markup version in front of you. So 163 is amending the International Residential Code. So this is for single family, and this is new and phase 3 renovation that are addressed in this code. And the only thing that is changed in this committee sub from the underlying bill, as you scroll down, you'll see it's, again, mostly some formatting in terms of how the definitions are laid out. And then you'll see on page 3, we struck a couple of sections A and B, which are then replaced with language on the next page, page 4, line 10, which states that the level 3 alterations, those requirements don't kick in until January 1, 2024. So nothing substantively changed there. We just reformatted it. And then also on page 4 at the top of the page, there was another line added regarding UL 2202. So just getting, again, making sure that all of the, as you all know on this committee, the building code is incredibly complex. So just going through and cleaning up to make sure that we have all the appropriate references in there. And those are the only changes. As I said, so for single family, the requirement is one EV ready space, and then starting in 2020 for new construction, and then starting in 2024 for phase 3 renovations, one EV ready space. And there are exceptions. If the parking is going to be more than 50 feet away, then this requirement would not apply. I'm happy to answer any questions on 163.
Alderwoman Howard, any questions?
No questions.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd, any
no
questions?
questions.
So then I would entertain a motion to pass Board Bill 163 committee sub out with the due pass recommendation.
I recommend to remove
Board Bill, okay, 163.
3 with
And-
due recommendations.
Okay, and I'll second that. Um, I'll call for previous roll. Any objection to previous roll?
No
No,
objection.
Okay, then we've passed out Board Bill 163 committee sub out with the do pass recommendation. Um, Alderwoman Navarro, Board Bill 181.
Great, thank you. So Board Bill 181, this is the new bill that was not before the committee before. And this one, as I said before, this is to amend the existing building code. So this is for renovations of multifamily and commercial. So those previously were all combined in Board Bill 162, which is why we amended 162 and then have introduced Board Bill 181. So the phase 3 renovations, I can pull up actually that chart again here so you can see what this is referring to. So this is, multifamily, so 5 units and up, and commercial. So starting in January 2022, the table here outlines the number of EV-ready spaces that would be required, and then for the very large parking lots, there would be a small number of EV installed spots. So a place where you could show up and plug in your electric vehicle. And then in 2025. We would ramp that up a little bit for multifamily. So it would go from 5% to 10% in large parking lots with 50 spaces or more. And we did, as I mentioned last time, that this is all part of an effort as part of the American Cities Climate Challenge. The city of St. Louis received a grant and has been working with NRDC and IMT and done an extensive survey of what else is going on in the country and what's projected for the city of St. Louis, talking with developers in the region about what's possible. And that's how these numbers were arrived at. And there are members of the building division here, as well as Maurice Mouillet, our climate advisor, and Scott Ogilvie, other folks who worked on the technical aspects of this too, if anybody has any questions. None of this has changed from the bill that you all saw a couple of weeks ago, other than we did exempt houses of worship from phase 3 renovations. So, and that's consistent with what other cities do too. I guess I should also mention within commercial, there are exemptions for things like restaurants and daycare facilities that have high turnover. Factories are also exempted because they often have like these huge parking lots, but they're not being used necessarily by people staying there for, they don't have a lot of traffic in and out. So there are exemptions within the code, and those haven't, other than the houses of worship, that hasn't changed since I presented this bill a few weeks ago.
Okay, you can unshare. Let's see here. Alderwoman Howard, any questions? Alderwoman Howard, you're still muted. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. No questions.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd, any questions?
no questions, Mr. Chair.
And I don't have any questions. I do want to take a second, just the people that are here that wanted to speak on this. Does anyone in this group have an objection to any of this that want to speak against this bill? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Leroy Grant, and committee members, thank you for allowing me to join today. I don't know that I'm opposed to it. I just have some questions that I'd like to have answered or clarified, if you don't mind, please.
Okay, sure. And well, let me think. You know what? I got to ask Alderwoman Howard. No, we don't have a motion yet. So, yes, certainly. What's the question? And hopefully, Alderwoman Navarro can answer that, and then we'll move on. I just didn't want to cut anybody out that was here, because I know we're going on a fast pace. I just don't want to lose my people that we got going.
Oh, okay, just so you know that I'm appearing today on behalf of Wallace Petroleum, which operates Mobile on the Run on Hampton. I'm not appearing today on behalf of AT&T. I want to make sure that's clear.
Okay.
Question regarding renovations. For instance, if the convenience store Mobile on the Run decides that it needs to add maybe 200 square feet for additional storage or a new freezer or something like that, would that renovation then require that a electric vehicle charging station be installed?
Alderwoman Navarro.
Oh,
So that
okay.
if
Am I
it's a
responding to questions
Yeah,
from the?
if
Okay.
you were, and that's a gas station, so I don't know. I mean, people come and go and come and go.
Yeah,
I don't
and
think that was
I mean,
exempt.
this isn't just any renovation. It's a phase 3, which my understanding is a gut rehab. We do have Frank Oswald here, so the director of the building division. So if he's probably more qualified to distinguish between types of renovations. Frank, if I can
Yeah,
pass
sure.
the floor to him.
Frank, you're muted, Frank.
Okay,
There it is.
yeah, Leroy, it would be a level 3 renovation. And what you're talking about, any of these kind of smaller minor improvements on property, no, that would not trigger this whatsoever. This is specifically for major renovation and level 3, which is basically, like the Alderwoman says, a gut rehab for most circumstances.
Okay. Well, that being said, that answers all my other questions that I had. So thank you.
Okay. So I see Alderman Gunther's here. Did you have any questions? Alderman Gunther?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have any questions, just here to support the bill.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion that we pass Board Bill 181 out. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll make the motion. I think everybody's kind of muted still. I'll make a motion, we pass.
So
Board Bill
moved.
181 out.
Second.
Okay.
So moved.
Right. We got a first and a second. I'll call for previous roll. I hear no objection to previous roll. I see Alderman Mohammed's with us, but with that, we've passed Board Bill 181 out with the due pass recommendation. Alderwoman Howard, I noticed a little bit backwards, but if any of your speakers want to speak, and if any of the members have to drop off for other things, it's okay, because these could be questions that might come up on the floor. It didn't seem like there were any questions, though, but if there was somebody you want to speak, everything's passed out, but at this point, if you want someone to speak at all, certainly feel free to, to do that.
I guess I would just ask, John, if you wanted to go on the record, or Emily or Catherine, just raise your hand if any of you wanted to go on the record with testimony. I really appreciate you being here today. Sure. So John Maxwell at the Sierra Club, if we could unmute him to speak, that'd be great. Thank you.
He can unmute himself. I don't have anybody muted.
I can unmute myself. I'm good.
All right. I don't mute people in the meetings.
Okay, well, thanks for having me today. I'm John Maxwell. I live at 3438 Russell Boulevard in the city of St. Louis, and I'm here to represent the Missouri chapter of the Sierra Club. I want to talk about the benefits of supporting electric vehicles. St. Louis, to our credit, has recognized that climate change must be addressed. And as you all know, in 2018, the city committed to moving to 100% clean and renewable energy community-wide and reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 100% by 2050. Increasing access to electric vehicles, or EVs, will help achieve these goals. EV readiness was one of the recommendations of the Pathway Report approved by the board last year. A switch to electric vehicles, which require no gasoline and emit no tailpipe pollution, presents a critical opportunity to slash pollution, reduce oil dependence, and, importantly, create American jobs. As we shift to more renewable sources of power to deal with climate change, EVs become even cleaner over time. The transition is inevitable, as all the major automakers plan to greatly expand their EV offerings, as well as new automakers coming on the market monthly. We can be part of this positive change to address climate change. There's another positive aspect to EVs. Here in Missouri, transportation pollution plays an outsized role in undermining public health and environmental quality. gas-burning vehicles are responsible for nearly half of the ozone-forming gases that cause Missouri to violate federal standards for ozone, as well as nearly a third of all greenhouse gas emissions statewide come from transportation systems. EVs completely eliminate the ground level tailpipe pollution that we're accustomed to breathing every day. This is a major public health benefit. Residents of this region have long experienced high asthma rates. Here in St. Louis, that falls disproportionately on Black residents. The St. Louis Environmental Racism Report states that Black residents of the city have 8.5 times the emergency room visits for asthma than white residents. Black children are especially hard hit. Poor health effects of the carbon economy could be eliminated once our conservation to clean energy is complete, or conversion. As you can make a difference in people's lives. I've been driving an electric car for more than 8 years. In that 8 years, I've driven exclusively electric in the local St. Louis area. These cars are cheap to drive. It costs us about $6 a month to run all the driving we do in the city of St. Louis. They're also fun to drive with a lot of power, no noise pollution, and no atmospheric pollution. They do require a place to charge though. More available charging stations makes these vehicles much more useful and increases usable range of every EV out there, and thus accelerating the widespread adaptation of this clean technology. This goes especially true for charging stations in places like shopping malls and commercial businesses that people go to visit. I asked them to vote yes on board bills 162 and 163 and 181, which I didn't have on my list, which will help us achieve our goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and protect the health of all of our residents. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. And it seems that Catherine, Ms. Warner, you wanted to speak? You can unmute yourself. Am I muted? No, I'm not. I believe that Mrs. Warner wants to speak. You have to unmute yourself.
Great,
There you go.
wonderful. Thank you very much. Sorry, I had some.
It's hard on all of us. I keep forgetting to unmute myself halfway through most of my speeches, so
I know.
it might be a blessing.
How about this?
You're good. You're good.
I'm hearing an echo and I apologize. Are you hearing the echo too?
No.
Okay, then I'll just deal with it. Sorry, thank you very much for the opportunity. I will keep my remarks brief. I was listening in on the last hearing and I had technical issues with that one. So, but I did hear that all of the specifics that needed to be covered were covered aptly by all of the experts. Very grateful for the work and that dedication they've put into developing these bills. I just wanted to take a brief moment and put it in context for the city's overarching sustainability program and climate protection initiative. Sometimes people worry that, oh, this is sort of a knee-jerk or ad hoc effort and don't understand how it relates. So I just wanted to just spend a brief moment. The echo is really annoying. So the city, as you all know, has an overarching climate protection goal and decarbonization objectives. It is comprised of several different strategies and approaches, from the building sector to the transportation sector to the natural world. All of these things together are our path forward toward a cleaner, greener, healthier, more sustainable city of St. Louis. When we had the opportunity to propose Bloomberg American Cities Climate Challenge support, I wanted to include vehicle electrification because while we were having great progress and momentum in other areas, we really had not done anything when it came to electric vehicles. So it was very intentional. And when I start a new program, I make sure to do several things. One, gather the data. Two, look first within the city sustainability wheelhouse. What can we build on? Three, make sure that the city is walking the talk and leading by example. And four, thinking about the impact to achieve, wanting to make sure that those outcomes embed from the earliest point possible equity and equitable outcomes. So that is how we set up the vehicle electrification program. It's basically 4 parts, 2 within the city, 2 within the community at large. So the leading by example, the city is very much trying to start the effort of transitioning its fleet to using electric vehicles. So trying to lead by example. We were able to get some VW Trust Award funds to make that happen. And we should see the first ones in the next couple of months and the associated charging infrastructure. In order to help ensure that it is institutionalized in an ongoing practice and not just, the reaction to some VW trust funds, we have proposed revising the city's city vehicle policy to incorporate clean procurement preferences for city departments that are procuring vehicles, that they will look first to adding electric vehicles, and there will be a cost benefit in there. But this is to ensure that the city is doing what it can over time to transition to electric vehicles. We also heard that within the community, it needed to be more about the charging infrastructure to give people the confidence to purchase and use electric vehicles within the city. So our focus within the community has been two-pronged. And one is reflected, the equity component is reflected in the successful Silvers grant that I know you've heard a little bit about. And that will be launching, and that is specifically to ensure that we are doing a better job connecting the dots between electric vehicles, their use, and the benefits that the community members will derive. And the fourth and final piece, if you will, is this collection of bills, which will be kind of known as the electric vehicle ordinance and program that will be housed in the building division, largely implemented there to address and try and support community-wide uptake and eventually market-wide transformation, not just within the municipal fleet, but the greater community. So I just wanted to mention that, again, this is a suite of vehicle electrification strategies that together, while each one may not address all of the leadership or equity objectives that we're striving to achieve, when taken together, our vehicle electrification strategy, I think, achieved this. I'm grateful that all of these folks and many others who have the time to advance these bills have done so. It will be a very important success for the city when it passes, not if, in the coming weeks. So thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. Alderwoman Navarro, I don't see where anybody else has said they want to speak, but if anybody else, any of the other speakers want to speak, just raise your hand or unmute yourself. Or I don't see anybody else. So with that, unless Alderwoman, you have any other things you want to add, we'll adjourn.
Thank you.
Anything else? Nothing else? Okay, then I don't think she's going to add anything else. So we'll go ahead and adjourn. I'll take a motion to adjourn, make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn this public safety meeting.
And I'll second that in previous role. So we are adjourned. Thank you all, and thank you to the speakers that came out. I'm sorry we did a little bit of a rush, but a lot of the committee members had other things. So it was really just trying to get this through for you all and move this legislation on to the full floor, which should start to happen this week. So anyway, God bless. Thank you. We